Alright, it's a Memorial Day weekend here in Rockland, Massachusetts, and getting ready to go down to Duxbury Beach clamming. There's red tide in the area, but it's not affecting Duxbury, thank goodness, because this is the last weekend we can get for steamed clams. But right now we're taking a little tour through the garden to get the just at the spring planting, what's going on, so I can compare it with the rest of the year. That's my fish toad. If I don't take it here, I use it to store weeds until they dry up, and I put them in the barrels that you're going to see throughout the garden. These are blueberries, a number of different kinds. Now here's common malign plants. I took the seeds originally from Nantucket some years ago, where they're endangered, and I happened to find some seeds on the ground, so I brought them home, and I've been planting them here and raising them for the last, I don't know, 15 years or so. I also take the seed heads from these in this fall, and I throw them along the barrier beach called Saquish and Duxbury Beach, and they are good root things, and they help hold the soil. And you'll see them along the road. This one, normally they grow yellow spikes, and they're 2 to 4 feet high along the road. In the garden, they will be anywhere from 4 to 7 feet tall, with hundreds and hundreds of flowers. I think I got a text now. I hope that's about cod fishing. Here's my mulch pile, and I have growing out of the top of that Jerusalem artichokes, which are a type of plant that gives a root to eat. And there's a number of them in here, and I identified them for rock bottom when he brought them to me. And if you grow them in your mulch pile, they create some nice yellow flowers, and then they give you some nice tubers that you can harvest in the fall. This used to be my grape arbor area, but I removed the grapes because they really weren't doing that good in the soil here, and I don't have enough time left in my life to worry about them, so I took them out and replaced them with a few other things. Getting ready to put the peppers in, tomatoes. That was one of my little entrance ways. Put these boards down to help keep the weeds down for a while. Shasta daisies, transplanted them this year. This is all blueberries. And then I don't know what squashed my aster plant, but looks like the flowers are still going to make it. And again, this is one of my little prettier parts of the garden, with the lighthouse and the irises. This will be my tomato enclosure, if you will. I'll probably only put a half a dozen on them in there this year because I get so many tomatoes from it. Those are onions, 3 different kinds anyway right there, yellow, white, and red. And I got another 200 or 300 over there too. We like our onions. The yellow flowers are plants that overwintered, Brussels sprouts. And if you've ever had Brussels sprouts, this is what happens the next year. Those little Brussels sprouts sprout into the flower heads that you see there. The raspberries thick and green, and it won't be long before we'll be harvesting the yellow and black and red raspberries that grow in this particular patch. This is where I come, where I want to feel young, standing next to old Father Time. That sundial has been in the garden here for, I don't know, quite a few years. Here is potatoes that I put in here. I got tomato cages around them because I'm going to want to keep the vegetation up and out of my way, so I can travel around this area without having to trip over a lot of vegetation. It'll be tough with the raspberries in here, but we'll make a break. All these rubber mats and things you see in the ground will be stretched out when the final time comes to prevent weeds and just give you some place to stand without having to stand on the soil. I just put in some summer squash, yellow squash there. We'll thin those out in a few days when it's determined which ones are going to be it. There are some carrots, seeds in the ground that should be up any day right in that area. Again, we're looking back at the where I'm going to plant my tomatoes. I got a lot of red ants in the garden, boy, and they took a beating on me today. That's looking back up toward the house. And we got a swimming pool for little Dan and a swimming pool for Max, my dog. Anyway, we're going down through the center of the garden now. I got some other yellow squash starting to grow right down there. Planted some by seed and I planted some by plant. And I did that with a lot of different things. These onions here are all planted from plants that I happened to pick up at Home Depot. And I planted them. There were two different types, and they weren't bulbs, but they were little plants. And that little patch over there was bulbs I bought down Wyman's nursery. And they're looking pretty good. Actually, both patches are looking pretty good, but if I had to give an edge, I would say that the bulb plants are doing a little bit better. But we'll see as the year goes on. Here's the cucumber patch will be. Oops. Stepping on something sharp here. Of course, I'm a barefooter myself all year round. Ice and snow, who cares? Anyway, this is a little part of the wild part of the garden where I've grown bee balm and a bunch of different plants for the hummingbirds and the butterflies. I'm not sure what's going to happen to it yet, but we'll make do. It's a nice little garden. These are potatoes. I'm starting to fill in the trenches now. I dig out trenches, lay the potatoes underneath the bottom few layers of inches. As they grow, I bring in the dirt from the sides, and pretty soon the humps on the side will be the humps in the middle, if you will. But there's probably at least five or six different kinds of potatoes that I grow. And most of them will be Pontiac Reds, but I mix in a bunch of Klondikes, or Klondike Yellows, or Yukon Gold, I guess they are, and Russets, and I don't know, 2 or 3 different kinds. Those are Renegades left over from last year that I obviously missed. And sometimes they're only about ½ inch across, the little potatoes you miss, but they'll grow just as big as any plant you have. And they'll provide lots of good potatoes. One of my best potato plants was a second-year plant, grew Rogue, and I must have had 60 potatoes, red Pontiacs. Some of them, half a dozen were as big as softballs. So, I got a little wild area out back, conservation land from the town, when the big tree fell. But we're lucky here. I got a very nice little area. All these rocks came from this garden, made this wall, and there's other walls. Every year I haul out rock by the ton. And as I weed the garden and I go to different areas, I reach down and I pick up the rocks and I throw them in these buckets. And the weeds will go into the old rubbish buckets, which I cut the bottom out of. Dig it as far down as I can get into the subsoil till it gets really hard and rocky. And I stick the barrel down into the ground that far and fill it in around again and fill it full of vegetation. And it serves 2 purposes. One, it holds water in the summertime because of the depth of it is up against the subsoil, and 2, it makes dirt. I have a number of them throughout the garden. There's one there. There's another one here. And I have one in was kind of a dead spot in my garden, so I just dug one in there. It's also a good spot to put any refuse from the dog. Anyway, this is mostly weeds right now. Nothing good. Carrots, old carrots, which turn into Queen Anne's lace if you let them grow the second year. Some columbine, a couple different colors, brown over there. But this is it, folks. The old hacienda. And this year's edition is going to be the butterfly garden, which we make it over here. And we've got a number of different flowers and wildflowers and different things we're adding in here, and hopefully we'll have pretty good butterfly display this year. Oh no. Keeps me pretty busy. Love my irises. And this year we're going to dig them all up and bulb them all out and replant them here and in other places around the garden and around the yard to just propagate them. This started out as 2 or 3 little plants up against the lighthouse maybe 5 years ago. And now look at them, beautiful. Anyway, off to the Duxbury clam flats and a nice bucket of clams. See you in a few weeks, plants, when you're a little bit bigger.